Kyodo News English World。
皆さんこんにちは。こちらは共同通信英文記者のポッドキャストです。英文記者は国内外で起きていることについて取材してオリジナルの英文記事を発信したり、日本語のニュースを英訳したりしています。共同通信の英語の記事をテーマにいろんな国から集まる仲間たちと英語と日本語を交えていろいろディスカッションしていけたらと思います。今日は3人の記者でお届けします。Hi there everyone, my name is Eduardo Martinez. I'm originally from Brisbane, Australia, and I've been here at Kyodo News for over 3 years now. Nice to meet you all.
Hi there, my name is Peter Masheter. I'm a staff writer at Kyodo News. I've been here for about 3 years now. Thank you very much.
皆さんこんにちは、山田エレサと申します。記者としては2年目、この春から英文記者をしております。よろしくお願いいたします。
So today we will be discussing an article on a survey about couples taking separate surnames. Peter, would you mind reading the headline for us?
Sure. The headline is Japan surname law cited in 30% of common law unions survey.
3割改姓望まず事実婚っていう調査の結果ですね。Thank you. And could you read the first 2 paragraphs, please?
Sure. Nearly 30% of people in common law relationships in Japan have chosen not to marry because they do not want to change their own or their partner's last name, as required by Japanese law, a recent private survey has shown. The survey by Asunua, a non-governmental organisation advocating for separate surnames for married couples, found the rate was higher among people in their 20s at around 40%, with more than 60% of that group saying they would switch to legal marriage if separate surnames were allowed. The Justice Ministry says Japan, to its knowledge, is the only country that requires couples to adopt the same surname upon marriage.
選択的夫婦別姓の事実を目指す団体は事実婚に関する意識調査の結果で回答者の3割が自分や相手の改姓を望まないということについての調査ですね。Thank you very much. Right, so that's a very interesting fact there at the end that Japan seems to be the only country to not allow the adoption of separate surnames. So why do we think that is the case, and why is this issue so big here in Japan at the moment?
So I think it's a big issue in Japan now, or has been a big issue in Japan for a long time, because for years and years there's been talk about the government revising the law to allow separate surnames. But despite support from political figures, including Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, who, before he became Prime Minister, expressed support for changing the law on surnames, a large enough section of the ruling Democratic Party is against separate surnames for married couples because they say that it compromises the family unit for different members of it to have different surnames.
All right, and so what do you think that tells us about some attitudes in Japanese society? Yamada-san, do you believe that there are a lot of people who still think this way?
そうですね。以前共同通信が行った世論調査では、選択的夫婦別姓に賛成する方が 71%、反対は 27% と差が開いたという報道を弊社では行っておりました。この数字だけ見ると、選択的夫婦別姓を賛成する声がかなりマジョリティなのかなというふうには思います。でこれは選択的夫婦別姓というシステムにメリットを感じている人もいれば、逆に言えばこの自民党が言ってるような伝統的な家族観を壊すかもしれないとか、そういう伝統だとか日本の文化とかそういったものの訴求力がすごく薄いのかなというふうにも感じています。つまり自分の名字に対して伝統とか家族とか伝統的な家族みたいなものをあまり関連づけてないっていう人も多いのかなというふうに思います。
なるほど。ありがとうございます。And so, from any of our own personal experiences, do we know of anyone in our lives that has had issues with the not being able to take separate surnames or having had issues like this with when they're getting married?
So I know a couple who are a middle-aged Japanese couple who have been together for at least 20 years now, I would say. And they've never married, and the reason they've never married is purely because they don't agree that they should have to change their surnames to do so.
Right.
So they share a home together, but it's only owned by one of the couple. And in the event that one of them gets sick, it can be difficult for the other to go and see them, and when one of them dies, how their assets are going to be passed on to the other is an issue that they worry about every day. Although the article mentions issues around receiving the same benefits as legal couples, such as through spouse tax deductions and statutory rights to inherit partners' estates, what the article doesn't mention is that around 90% of the people who change their names when they get married are women.
Right.
And a lot of women report issues around changing their names and how it affects their career, because often people build their careers on their original surnames, and having to change them is a professional inconvenience. And also people talk about a loss of identity. If I had to change my surname, I would consider that. I have quite a distinctive surname, so I'd consider it quite a serious loss of my identity.
You certainly do.
To have to change my surname. Yamada-san, how do you feel about having to change your own surname if you were to marry?
必ずしも女性が名字を変えなきゃいけないわけではなくて、そもそも夫と妻とどっちの名字を名乗りますかっていうのを選択肢として与えられてはいるんですよね。で、そこですごい個人的に興味深いなと思ったのが、女性が名字を変えた時に語ることと、男性が妻の名字に変えたパターン、変えた時に語る経験っていうのがちょっと違うっていうのが面白いなと思いました。私はこのトピックに関連して結婚して妻の奥様の名字に変えた男性のブログをたまたま見つけてそれを読んだんですけれども、全体的にポジティブな経験として受け止めていたんですね。彼の場合は奥様の方が珍しい名字を持たれている方で、その珍しい名字に僕もなりたいっていうので名字を変えたそうなんです。で、そこで名字を変えたことによるいろいろな煩雑な手続きはあるものの、こういう経験ができるとか、なんか新しい自分になったような気分がするとか、そういうこともあって、で、実際の仕事では、旧姓の時に作った E メールアドレスだとか、旧姓をそのまま会社で使っているので、仕事には何も影響がないという、ストーリーだったんですね。夫婦同姓別姓のディスカッションの中で、よくその女性のキャリアの邪魔になるだとか、女性へのデメリットが強調されることって結構あると思うし、それは、実際にあることだと思うんですけれども、名字を変えることによって語られる経験がこれだけポジティブ、ネガティブで異なるというのは、もしかしたら問題はそもそも名字を変えるとか、別姓を認めるとかではない、もっと根深いところに存在してるんじゃないかなという気もしてきます。
Right, and so we did touch on it earlier as well, but like we mentioned that a lot of common law couples do miss out on certain benefits, such as spouse tax deductions and the statutory right to inherit their partner's estate. Something that I personally see as well as some interesting parallels to the debate for allowing same-sex marriage in Japan as well. A lot of same-sex couples are unable to marry, and for that same reason they are also affected by being unable to receive any of these kinds of protections. So I find it interesting that here in Japan, these arguments for allowing separate surnames and allowing for same-sex marriage are often heard within the same conversations.
Well, the polling also shows, as we mentioned, with separate surnames, a majority of the population are in favour of same-sex.
Exactly, and the arguments against for it are quite similar, as well as that it will affect the concept of a traditional family here in Japan. そろそろ終わりの時間になりました。共同通信では、共同ニュースプラスというサイトで日本や世界で起きた出来事について英語のニュースを発信しています。今日ご紹介した記事も掲載されていますので、ぜひチェックしてみてください。それでは皆さん、
See you next time!